Hello, everyone. In this edition of the Ottawa Market, we discuss Canada's banks, specifically one in particular. Now, as we know, Canada's banks are in general very venerated, but there is one institution which, in my view, comes to mind, which is the focal point of this basically exploration today on ethics in banks. And we're talking today about RBC. Now, what's the issue going on with RBC, you might ask? Well, in my view, it's pretty serious when we have a situation where people every day, as we know, contact the banks for various customer service questions, and people expect a certain amount of integrity that when their messages and when their information and when the conversation is recorded, RBC should have the integrity as well as other banks to ensure that if there's evidence brought forth in the proceeding, then the phone recording should be respected in its integrity. I know, for example, I've had conversations with Bell Canada before, and they went and they were very precise and made sure that whatever thing I said and whatever the agent said was completely respected. And I can tell you, Bell Canada, from my experiences, has a high sense of integrity with respect to, these types of situations. But this is not the experience which I'm seeing with RBC. Now, RBC has been subject of a proceeding regarding the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. A particular matter was referred to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal after being recommended by the Canadian Human Rights Commission concerning a prima facie case of discrimination. Then RBC, there was a conversation between the RBC representative and the individual who was facing and being subject to discrimination, and RBC brought these audio files of this conversation, which, and if the audio files were respected in their complete integrity, they would have been very revealing. But, the audio files were brought forth to the Canadian Human Rights Commission as their, prospective evidence. And what do you know? So there was the recipient, the person who was involved in this conversation, listened to the recording. It didn't match up with the original conversation with the RBC representative, and this is quite shocking, and then the individual decided to get it analyzed, forensic analysis, and according to the forensic analysis, the RBC audio file, the conversation was not raw, according to the forensic analysis by that particular researcher, found that the file was subject to post-production manipulation, which meant that RBC does not produce a raw file that apparently, according to this investigation, was manipulated in a way which would benefit RBC, and with the editing out apparently of incriminating evidence. Now, I think most Canadians would be shocked that such an established institution as RBC would go to the length of risking their own reputation by manipulating such a recording. But this recording was not sent to just one forensic analyst. It was sent to multiple analysts, investigators. One of the investigators, their work was sent to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. It was forwarded to RBC. And guess what happened after that? Well, what happened was the beginning of a bit of a movie script, because what happened was that RBC then went ahead and apparently searched out for this particular forensic representative, this analyst, found their contact information. We know that they found the contact information because they produced their contact information on Upwork and LinkedIn. And right after that particular, producing that information, guess what happened? Well, the forensic analysts for some reason, blocked the, decided that they did not want to do any more research. They did not want to do any more revealing of what RBC was doing. Of course, they revealed plenty of their own research, but they just blocked out the same people that was, that he was assisting with this investigation. So, isn't that strange? Isn't that strange how all of a sudden, RBC produces this contact information that he had information about this analyst, and all of a sudden the analyst seems to be scared and doesn't want to say anything, and just a very interesting situation. So this is what's going on with RBC. So here we have, after apparently multiple forensic, investigation, the file that RBC produced for the tribunal is not consistent with a raw file. It's alleged, apparently manipulated. This is the evidence that RBC is trying to use in a tribunal. And then the representative who they knew that found out this information about them all of a sudden is running scared and doesn't want to have anything to do with the further investigation. And when this was brought forth to the tribunal, RBC is trying to go on, I don't know what's going on there. So, this is what's going on with RBC. So, again, this is quite shocking. This is So, again, the public has the right to know if, these sort of things are taking place with RBC. I can tell you, I've never seen anything like this. Like I said before, I've had experiences with, Bell Canada, very above board with respect to, the integrity of the phone conversations that you have with them. But then we have RBC, apparently, doing these sort of things according to the forensic, analysts, the forensic research, taking an audio file and allegedly deleting out incriminating evidence that they don't want apparently the tribunal to know about, and then trying to produce a file that was completely inconsistent with the original conversation. So if you had a similar experience to this, please share your experiences. And, we need to start holding our public institutions and our private institutions accountable when they are not acting consistent with ethical standards. And we look forward to any insights or discussions or comments you might want to have about this shocking report about RBC and how it's trying to evade scrutiny regarding discrimination, apparently. Thanks for watching.